So I was really surprised, pleasantly surprised to get an email about the talking to you about the Highway Butterfly album, the tribute album. And so because Neal Casal, although we do play Neal on the Colorado Sound, we play the original of Traveling After Dark, we play Debris and a couple of others. I kind of wanted to take this interview from a beginner standpoint, if that's cool with you.
Sure.
Like an introduction to Neal. I mean, I can give the basics, like, you know, he had what, 15 solo albums. He worked with Ryan Adams and the Cardinals, and that's how I first met him, when Ryan Adams and the Cardinals came to Dave FM back in the day. Chris Robinson Brotherhood, of course, he worked with you in Hardworking Americans. Gospel Beach, which is Beachwood Sparks, kind of an offshoot of Beachwood Sparks.
That's right.
Yeah. And Circles Around the Sun. So he was, and that doesn't even count the stuff he did as a session musician, which was, oh my God, the list is, he was like a one-man wrecking crew with guitar. You know what I mean? The session musician wrecking crew.
Absolutely. I mean, we could spend all of the time we have allotted talking about everything that Neal did and still not even get into the fact that he was an amazing photographer. I mean, you said it. Neal, his first record was called Fade Away Diamond Time. It was released, I think, on Mammoth Records in 1994. It's produced by Jim Scott, who wound up sort of taking Neal into his studio world, and he turned him into that dependable session guy that you mentioned. And that kind of work ethic and dependability, the word travels far and fast on someone like that, and that's how you get hooked in with a genius like Ryan Adams, or a workhorse like Chris Robinson. Those guys, they found a way to do like 50 shows just in California alone, just to cut their teeth. Neal understood that you had to take it to the floor and take it to the people and just keep at it. I feel that Neal as a songwriter is greatly appreciated by a particular group. When I spoke to MC Taylor of His Golden Messenger about doing a track for Highway Butterfly, he kind of hipped me to this idea that there's two sides to Neal Casal. And one side was the guy in the 90s that was a prototypical Americana singer-songwriter doing records like Fade Away Diamond Time. And that's where MC picked up on his appreciation of Neal. I didn't meet Neal until we put the Hardworking Americans together. And so for me, Neal was this like guitar hero, very colorful, patient soloist, sort of a bearded and bespectacled music lover and an amazing session guy. So there were two sides to him. And I think that it's been funny watching people sort of marry those two sides when they listen to Highway Butterfly. A lot of the artists that came in to participate and do a song kind of fell on either one of those sides of the fence.
So did those artists then take the opportunity to, and we could get into more of the musicians who are involved, but did they take the opportunity to explore that other side that they didn't know about in the songs they chose?
Some people did. I mean, some of them that really had no clue about Neal, only just heard of him, like Marcus King. When I called him and told him what the deal was, I was like, you've got the entirety of his catalog to choose from. And this was before COVID, mind you. The initial plan was we would do all the tracks at Jim Scott's, and we would avail everyone who ever played with Neal who was interested in participating and supporting. So if Marcus wanted Circles Around the Sun to be his backing band, that was possible. If he wanted the Hardworking Americans core band or the Chris Robinson Brotherhood core band, that was all possible. And he was like, wow, are you serious? I'm totally in. Give me a minute to think and research. So there were those artists that I'm not sure that they had an appreciation for anything other than the fact they needed to get it. Other people like Billy Strings had brushed up and met Neal at a festival or two and maybe done some jamming in that sort of situation. And there were plans. Neal had plans with Billy Strings to have him guest on a Circles Around the Sun record that never actually happened. So for Billy to
That would
pick,
have been an interesting project.
oh, it would have been great. And as you could hear from the New Circles song
Yeah.
with Michaela Davis, they love the guest. They did one with Joey Russo. These were EPs, all about making music, and that's something that's pretty serious. But Billy chose all the luck in the world, and he came in, and we put him with Circles Around the Sun as a backing band, and a really beautiful track happened in one day. And by the time the day was done, Jim Scott, my co-producer, and Gary, the executive producer, we looked at each other and said, we can do this. We can cut a song in a day with the right artist. And so everybody just sort of lined up, and some picked their favorite song that had been their favorite for, possibly decades. And others just sort of flipped through the catalog, or were even actually sort of given a basket of 4 or 5 to choose from, and came in, and they were enthusiastic, and they interpreted the song in their own way, which is a mark of a great song. Bob Weir interpreted the hell out of Time and Trouble.
Mhm.
And I was there with him when it happened. So, it's pretty amazing. It really speaks to Neal as a songwriter and a friend, that so many people lined up to like boost this whole thing.
Well, it's an amazing tribute. I mean, what is it? As an album, it's 5 albums, it's 41 songs. The roster of musicians who wanted to be a part of this is truly amazing. I mean, it cuts from the extremely well-known to musicians who it serves as a great introduction to them as well. It was, when I first saw the project, I'll be honest, I didn't know you had produced it. And Sean Coakley contacted me about they were working Traveling After Dark, Aaron Lee Tasjan's version, to radio, and I heard it and I was like, wow, that's it's not too far off the original, but he made it his own. And that got me into the rest of it. And I was like, well, Steve Earle and just all the musicians that were on there. It was a great tribute, because as a music fan, when I heard that Neal had taken his life, your heart drops. You're like, oh my God, it was a bad day announcing that on the air.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, I'll always remember that I had a great day hanging out with Vance Powell at his studio, Sputnik Sound, and Billy Strings was there. We were hanging out, and we had some dinner, and it was a great day. Panic had just played 3 nights at the Ryman, and I was just floating on air, and I got back to the room, and there was a note from Chris Robinson to give him a call, and I did, and he told me. And it's just that kind of news coming down the pipe it's so always so shocking and so unexpected, and then you're just sort of left with everyone else picking up the pieces, trying to put the puzzle together, asking yourselves why. And in the end, the act of suicide, it's a highly personal choice somebody makes under extraordinary mental duress that's going on within their own head. And really, it was just such a tragic loss, and it's such a shame. And I think that that's part of why so many people lined up to participate in Highway Butterfly. It was it's not like somebody dies of old age and the family gathers around and everybody sees it coming. This was a horrifying, shocking event. And so for everyone to gather at Jim Scott's, a place where Neal really learned his skills and fomented that person, became that session guy, for the Circles guys and anyone who loved and knew Neal and had played music with him, to come there and participate was a way to heal and a way to grieve, and also a way to keep Neal in the room. To me, after 2 years, we started this thing in February of 2020 and still managed to finish it despite all the COVID craziness. So even after 2 years, and we just got the vinyl, like 2 weeks ago, the vinyl was delivered. To me, that's the thing that's left with me after all the work done and the sort of grieving that was intermingled and all the fellowship and healing, is that when I put these records on, I feel like Neal is sitting here in the room with me, even though it's not his voice singing these songs.
That's beautiful.
It is, and it's like the best thing I could have imagined, because Jim Scott and myself were both kind of worried when the end of the recording and mixing process was visible. We were like, what the hell are we going to do now? You know?
Well, the proceeds go to the Neal Casal Music Foundation. And it isn't just for helping musicians in where Neal grew up, New Jersey. It is also offering mental health services to musicians who need it, donating to those places, correct?
That's right. All the proceeds from the sales of the record and many other things, the beautiful photo book that was curated by Ricky Blakesberg, Jay Blakesberg's daughter, and all goes to the Neal Casal Music Foundation, which, as you said, we're with the help of Fender and Zildjian and numerous music manufacturers getting instruments into the hands of kids, which is fulfilling and always gratifying. But also, we've been able to make some donations to Music Cares, Sweet Relief. We're behind Backline.care. We're fully behind Nucci Space in Athens.
Oh, Nucci Space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so any way that we can get some help to these resources that are available for people who are feeling like they're not part of what's going on. That was something that Neal had stated, and I hear echoed by many people, especially in the touring business, that they feel like they're on some outer orbit looking in and not necessarily participating. And that's something we need to bring into the conversation. Just bringing discussions about mental health and suicide, awareness of the signs, awareness of resources where someone can seek some help and some information. Just getting that conversation going is an immense help. And I've gotten such great feedback from people who've listened to conversations like the one you and I are having right now, that they just didn't know. They get so hung up in their own world.
I've been there, where you can't see the forest for the trees, and you're just, it's hard to get out of that box. But it's really knowing that there's help available. That's the key, you know?
That's right. That's right. Knowing that it's available and trying to just lose some of the shame and stigma about talking about it.
Yes.
The touring industry is the first rule of show business is the show must go on. So there's a very much of a bootstraps mentality, and that's great. The show will always go on, but at what expense? And if we can make it easier for somebody to say, I'm struggling a little bit here. Is there anything that can help me? And yeah, there are other options than some of the classic ones that are not going to be mentioned on the air.
Well, what I can do after I edit this together, and my editing skills are not terrific on video. I mean, if I had a blade and a tape, it'd be a whole nother story, but
Right.
It's the modern age. Anyway, what I'll do when I put it together and we put it on the Colorado Sound website, I'll put some links, not just to Neal's foundation, but to mental health services, because we have a resource page on the Colorado Sound too, with those kinds of things.
That'd be great, Margot.
During the pandemic. Well, I mean, it's one humanity, right? I mean, I don't want to sound like too kumbaya, but if you look at what's going around in the world, you see how deeply we're all interconnected, and you want to help.
That's absolutely right. And I don't want to push anything down anyone, down their pipe. I just want to make things available and easy to find. So that's amazing. Thank you.
Sure, Dave. So when you were producing Highway Butterfly, did you realize, as you were hearing other people interpret Neal's songs, any special strengths he brought as a musician? Like, were there things like you'd heard his music, you worked with him in Hardworking Americans, you've worked with him in other settings, but then you hear somebody else doing his song and you're like, wow, I didn't realize that thought had gone into that particular whatever of the song?
Sure. There's Neal had this skill, first of all, which is classic songwriting. leaves a lot of things ambiguous so that they can be interpreted by the listener. He had that in spades. He also uh, planted some pretty on the nose clues about his mental state and how long he'd been feeling the way he'd been feeling. And every now and then one of those lines might drift through the control room while an artist was doing a take. And it was like, whoa, boy, you know, he understood solitude and melancholy. But I think really the most positive takeaway from the whole thing is how he was able to inject such a feminine quality into his songwriting, because I didn't really pick up on that until artists like Jamie Wyatt and Lauren Barth and Victoria Reed and Leslie Mendelsohn came in and interpreted his songs. It was they didn't change, pronouns or anything.
Right.
And in one case, I think Neal wrote from a female perspective. But I was really taken aback by how effective, and that's just a really antiseptic term to use about music, but the emotion that was just very sublimely interlaced into the lyrics, to where someone like Leslie Mendelsohn could interpret it and have it just be so beautiful and gorgeous. That's an appreciation for Neal that I hadn't been able to get my hands around until we did this project.
Man, that must have been like a kind of a gut punch when you heard like some of those lyrics, like as you said, they drifted into the control room and you're like,
oh, well, yeah, there's a song called Lost Satellite that Lauren Barth did an amazingly beautiful, achingly beautiful version of. And I think she really nailed the emotionality of the song. But the line, give me enough rope to hang myself, comes drifting through. And like Jim and Gary and I are in there so enthusiastic about the project. And then something like that comes drifting through. And, that song was written 20 years, 25 years, who knows how long Neal had the lyrics in his pocket. That's heavy, but that's real, and that's the way it was. And I am not one to deny an artist their chance to expose their feelings, because doing so is, first of all, it's paramount to the work. We're not writing commercial jingles here, folks.
right.
This is a songwriter telling it like it is from his point of view. So to me, it's got to be said, no matter how uncomfortable it might make people. In the end, it's beautiful, and it's dressed up and interpreted by an amazing artist. So,
well, it's a wonderful project. Now, it's been available since last November, but you just said you got the vinyl in?
yeah, I tell you what, this project, vinyl's an unstable medium, and there are a lot of places where something can go wrong once we finish the mastering and get it in there. It's a piece of plastic formed by heat and pressure.
Yeah.
But it's also how do we get the plastic? What about the packaging? COVID created so many snags and snafus, from people being laid off at record pressing plants to supply chain issues, that in the end, we just had to finally decide to release the digital and the streaming versions in November. And we just crossed our fingers, and luckily our friends at Kindercore managed to get this vinyl to us maybe in time, just a little after Valentine's Day. So to hold this beautiful thing, it's heavy, it's 5 LPs, it's a linen wrapped box. For me, just to hold it and unbox it and plop a record on the turntable, drop the needle and have it be satisfying and beautiful just fills me with joy. The downside is they sold out. So we're got to work on a repress. We're working on a repress right now. And, as soon as we can get a target date on that, we'll start letting people know. But yes, it's available on all your streaming platforms. And there's probably some CD box sets out there. You can check with your independent stores. I know that a particularly great store in Denver has a few copies of the vinyl. So I don't know if I'm allowed to mention it. But you know who they are.
We're a public radio station. We're a nonprofit. It's okay. You can mention it.
Twist and Shout probably has a few copies.
I knew that's what you were going to say.
Love those guys. So yeah, I don't mind. I don't think anyone's going to harm me. I'm a big independent record store booster. So
Well, here's how I look at it. They have it available and it's going to a wonderful cause. And if it introduces more people to Neal Casal's music, then it's a win all the way around.
absolutely, it's a win. It's a win. And I couldn't be more pleased.
It came out so well, Dave. It really did.
Thank you. I mean, we were thinking that it was going to be 3 records, and then we just had so many people wanting to participate, and the people who were scheduled to participate but couldn't make it happen one reason or another, because of COVID or personal health problems. And I don't want to mention it because maybe we hold them in reserve for another volume, because Neal certainly had plenty of songs.
Yeah, I was going to say you could keep going on this. He had, I mean, what, 15 solo albums alone? You could.
I mean, Margot, I had probably 16 demos that he had shared with me sitting on my laptop for years, where
Wow.
I'd be like, can we just get a couple of days and get into the studio? I'll just play bass for you. You can produce if that's the hang up. But,
Mhm.
you know, none of that stuff was the hang up in the end. I think he felt like he was just going to make a better living supporting the art of others. You know, being a side guy, being a studio whiz.
Yeah.
And but no, that's the thing. When someone is under the duress of mental health mounting, continually mounting mental health trauma, like doing something positive for oneself is the last thing on the list.
Correct. It is easier to support others because too, you kind of fade into the background. So you're still participating, but nobody's really noticing you. I'm speaking from experience in case you can't tell.
Yes, I mean, and thank you for sharing that, because we all know that the words that come from experience are the ones that land the best.
Yeah.
I wish that I could have had the chance to tell Neal, hey man, you know, with this new Circles Around the Sun record and the appearances that you're making in festivals and jamming with known like class A musicians,
Right.
you're like 6 months away from being on the cover of Guitar Player magazine. 6 months. Just hang in there. If I'd have known, but we all experience that. When we lose somebody to suicide, I think it's really natural and really human to say, if I could have just been there, or if I could have just stepped in or interceded and had the right combination of words, but that's not how it works. Hindsight's always 2020.
Yeah, and it's even more difficult with the isolation that hopefully, knock wood, we're coming out of right now with the pandemic. I mean, so were you extra careful touring and stuff? Because you guys were playing. I mean, I know you canceled some shows, but you still did some.
We when I guess it was well, it was Colorado. It was the Tunes for Tots benefit at the Mission Ballroom, and then the 3 shows at Red Rocks. Those were the first shows we played in over a year. I guess a year and 3 months from when everything just stopped.
Right.
So June of 2021, and we had pretty serious protocols, and then we adjusted those into an even more serious world to try to take it indoors later in the summer. And at that point, despite the best protocols, we still had a member of the band and a couple of crew guys get COVID positive.
Damn.
So we had to cancel shows in Austin at the last second, which was really heartbreaking because people were like flying into Austin.
Right.
And then getting the news as they hit the ground and got off the airplane. That don't feel good, man.
No,
It
no.
doesn't feel good, but everybody's trying to figure a way out of this sort of mystery room called COVID. And we by the time we get around to these Napa shows this fall, anyone who kept their tickets will have held them for 2 years. That's asking a lot for anyone.
Wow.
With
Yeah.
everything going on. But we just we would adjust. You know, we had a friend at the CDC that told us when it comes to variants, like when we had to pull our New Year's shows, he said it's like a game of whack-a-mole. Like a variant pops up and you try to, stomp it out.
Yeah.
And then while you're stomping that one out, somewhere else in the world, another new one will pop up. And so we're all just trying to figure it out. There's no politicization of it with us. It's simply, how can we keep our fans safe? How can we keep ourselves and our families safe? And how can we get back to doing what we love to do, which is to play music and
Right.
bring people together. It's a celebration. And I got to tell you, every single show we've done since last June has been a celebration. Everybody is so excited because, Widespread Panic's a little different. There are fans that have known each other for 3 decades. They bring their
Yes.
kids. And as an artist, I couldn't ask for anything more. So to be part of that celebration after all the, just everything that the last 2 years have been, I'm very grateful. I couldn't be happier.
I'm really happy for you. And you know what? I love this album, Highway Butterfly, the songs of Neal Casal. First of all, I think that he was so loved that you all got together to do that is amazing. But the way the album came together with the songs that were chosen, and that you still have more you can do, and it all benefits, Neal Casal's Music Foundation. That's wonderful. It was kind of like before we got on Zoom, I was refreshing my feed on Metafilter about the war in Ukraine. I'm just kind of like, so to be able to talk to you about this is so nice. It's like, it's reaffirming in a lot of ways.
I think the time is right for, anytime there's a tragedy, it's an opportunity for people to get together and to be positive, find a way to be positive. And with the state of the world and this war business and just the creeping authoritarianism and the lack of rights,
Yeah.
seeing all the strides that activists and progressive people have made over the last many, many, many decades, sort of being pushed back down into the well. It's awful, but it has to galvanize people. It has to unite the people who feel strongly, and they have to reach deep within and find a positive ray of light. And those of us who are artists, we have to absorb that feed, like you said, refresh that feed, take that information in, and still somehow find something within us that's positive and hopefully can unite some people. Don't want to be political about stuff. Just want to feel right in my heart.
Yeah.
And if I can produce anything or emit any kind of light or sound that makes people happy and brings them together, then I feel like I've done something great. And, I hope that wherever Neal is, he understands how loved he was and how important his message, no matter how melancholy, it's like the blues, it's a healer. Melancholy music, the blues, when people need it, it's there for them. And when people are happy, it reaffirms the joy they're feeling.
Yeah.
A special thing. And I love it. I was honored and happy to participate and healed from participating.
And that's important too. The people that are left behind, you have to heal too. So.
Thank you. That's right. But what a great way to heal, to hang out with hundreds of musicians that I love and respect, some of whom I've been hoping to get a chance to meet on like musical ground, like getting to hang out with the great session bass player, Bob Glob, and talk about Barnes Evon sessions he was on that my dad produced.
Damn.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Well, I love that Neal's still giving.
He is. And, these demos are going to see the light of day. If he sang and we got a good recording of it, we're going to clean it up and make sure that the world gets to hear it.
Well,
always working.
Now, Dave, that you know where to find me, if you got something you want to talk about, let me know. I'll give you a forum.
Awesome. Thank you, Margot. You've
You're
always been
welcome.
you've always been so sweet to me.
Well, I like you.
I know, and I know that that's a rare thing. So,
Well, liking you, you're extremely likable. I'm teasing.
well, liking other people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. For me, yes.
Exactly.
So Highway Butterfly, I'm going to do this. Highway Butterfly, the songs of Neal Casal. It has been available streaming and as a digital download since last November. You got the vinyl in, it's sold out, but there are vinyl copies, perhaps at certain Denver record stores. And also there's CD box sets around as well.
That's right.
All right. And I will send you a link once I get this together. It might take me a couple days, but I'll put this together and send you the link so that you have it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. It's great to talk to you.
You too, Dave. Take care. Be safe.
You too, Margot. I'll see you soon.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.